This way of capital provides several opportunities to Africa. However, it is important to balance long-term sustainability objectives with the short to medium needs for access to energy, job creation, poverty alleviation, and eradication of economic growth and development. This is all achievable through holistic approach to the ESG framework. Africa has a role to play as a continent and will continue to perform poorly when compared to other mining jurisdictions. The Fraser Institute's annual survey, again highlighted this for 2021. But our appeal is that when international institutions assess our areas, please do talk to executives in our jurisdiction. It must not just be based on desktop research. In other areas, Fraser Institute interview executives, whether it is in Canada or Australia or North America, but in Africa they use desktop survey. And that's why it will give you results that sometimes are confusing. It puts you at the bottom for investment attractiveness, but to put you at the top for availability of labor and skills. Then you can't reconcile the two. Out of the 15 categories assessed, you get increased assessment in 5, average on others, and you are getting trust on investment attractiveness. But all these other factors should contribute to investment attractiveness. So that's the point we're making. We'll have to engage and the institute itself that please do talk to our executive. We have noted concern raised by our miners in the subject. We need to work hard to improve internal factors and influence external factors that contribute to these concerning results. We intend to use the platform to encourage open and honest dialogue that will help to position Africa as an attractive mining and energy investment destination. One of the most promising investments on the continent is the African Continental Free Trade Area, which has the potential to create the biggest trade area in the world, cutting red tape, boosting trade throughout the continent, and this will significantly improve mining supply chains and reduce input costs. And to us, we are a continent. Honorable Mayor, we are not Cape Town, we are a continent. It's much bigger than Cape Town. So this continent must attract investment, must perform as a continent, not just one city. It's too small for the city. Now, the just transition to low carbon, future will continue green metals, to which Africa has an abundance of untapped resources, such as lithium, copper, cobalt, vanadium, nickel, zinc. There is no doubt that the transition will drive demand for the mineral. Remember, everything that you touch that advances life is either planted or mined. So the mining industry will play a major role if we're going to make advances on the green economy. The Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, demonstrates this, and together with Zambia, are among the largest producers of copper and cobalt in the world. The DRC, example, accounts for 70% of global copper output, and half of the world reserves. In addition, global targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and take transitioning away from pollution-emitting combustion energy to greener alternatives that utilize and reduce hydrogen fuel cells. The catalytic converters that vehicles manufacturers use to reduce neutralize harmful pollutants from exhausted emissions require PGMs, platinum group metals. It's important today, it is going to be important in the future, and we must remember South Africa accounts for the largest percentage of the world's platinum group metals reserves, with Zimbabwe ranked third. This will ensure that both countries play a crucial role in the world's emerging energy transition. Minerals of the future that Africa has in abundance hold great potential for the continent. These minerals can be used in the development of hydrogen economy. An exciting and significant story for the future today at this Indaba is that on Friday, 6th May, we unveiled the prototype of the largest world hydrogen-powered mine haul truck at the New Jersey at the Anglo-American Khalakwana PGM mine in Limpopo. It is not done in any city, it is in a rural place called Limpopo. That's where PGM is mined and that truck is there. And as a person who witnessed it, I had hoped that by the end of this decade, we're going to see a fleet of those hydrogen-powered trucks in many of the open cast in South Africa. No. And this is one of the first projects of South Africa's hydrogen value. The industrial cluster that brings various hydrogen applications to form an integrated hydrogen ecosystem. The launch of hydrogen-powered mine haul truck is indeed a source of pride for mining industry in the African continent. It is done here in Africa, it is working here in Africa. Investors, please come to Africa. That's where the future is. It's a continent of the future. You may have ideas now, but in the future, Africa is going to determine where we all go. This is one of our resource endowment as a country and continent must be translated into competitive advantage for value-added manufacturing that can contribute to job creation, investment, and export growth. Delegates at this Indaba must discuss how the continent can beneficiate its natural resources, because our weak point is that we mine, we take the mineral from the pit to the port, and somebody else has value. Let's invest in beneficiating our mineral. Beneficiation will mean we're fully taking ownership of the value chain of our minerals across of the upstream, midstream, downstream, and mining economic activity instead of exporting these to other countries. It is therefore critical that we address the issue of electricity pricing. We must ensure that electricity is affordable to the end user for beneficiation to happen in our country. I always remind people in South Africa that the fact that electricity was one of the factors taken into account to attract investment to the continent was that when among the lowest cost electricity, when we push it up, we take it out as a factor, and therefore our attractiveness is reduced. We have a duty as a country to talk to the price of electricity that can be used as a factor to increase investment. His Excellency President Ramaphosa will tomorrow deliver a presidential address in which he will elaborate further on our work to ensure that mining remains a sunrise industry. Many always believe that mining is a sunset industry. It is not a sunset industry, it is a sunrise industry. For a long time, mining in South Africa was regarded as gold mining. All of a sudden, mining is holistic and it continues to grow. And with mining growing, it can't be a sunset industry, it's a sunrise industry. Team South Africa will be hosting several events over the next few days, to which we would like to extend an invitation to you to come and engage. Council for Geoscience will today launch its data management portal hosted at the SA Pavilion, and the portal makes quality geoscience data and information accessible and available to stakeholders. Please visit that portal, see it. Does it give you value? And if it gives you value, use it and engage. Allow me to further emphasize that we're open to business and stand ready to work with the investment community. Let me clarify one point first. Last year, the President allowed us to deregulate embedded energy for own use from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts, and gave us a directive which we are complying with. To get a right to generate your own energy cannot take you more than 2 months. 60 days is what we're targeting. But it will work cooperation in the government so that if you have short period for issuing a permit, as the requirement to environment, your water license and others must and move with the same speed. That will help us achieve ease of doing business. Let me conclude by wishing you all a successful week. I look forward to the outcome of the conference and we together move to the mining industry forward. I don't want to get into what Mr. Baleni presented about other things that we do that add interest in the mining industry. Thank you very much. You are welcome. Please.
Thank you, Honourable Minister Mantashe. Now, Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to welcome His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia.
Thank you very much. You may take your seats, please. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, obviously in advance. I understand you'll be joining us soon. Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Botswana, my brother, President Okwesi Masisi, Your Excellency, Sama Lukonde Kienge, Prime Minister, Democratic Republic of Congo. Honorable Gwede Mantashe, Minister of Mines, South Africa. Mr. Franz Baleni, Summit Chairperson. Your Excellencies, Ministers from various African countries that are present here, indeed, government officials from all our governments that are present at this Indaba, representatives from chambers of mines, mining companies, financiers, investors, representatives from cooperating partners, including the World Bank, and indeed other international organizations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to be part of this year's Investing in African Mining at this Indaba. This year's theme, African Mining, Investing in Energy Transition, Environmental, Social and Governance, and our economies could not have come at a more opportune time than this one. The energy transition and unprecedented technological advancements are anchored by the mineral resources, amongst, indeed, other sectors other resources, not just on our continent, but elsewhere. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the mining sector remains critical to the sustainable development of our African continent. A few years ago, some years ago, there was a debate, a very strong debate, that mining is gone on this continent. No, mining is not gone. Mining is here to stay. Mining will anchor, if we manage it properly, our developmental agenda going forward. Our continent is blessed with vast mineral resources that are key drivers of the development agenda of most of our countries. I think you heard the Minister of Mines here. For example, just the two countries on this continent, Congo DR and Zambia, hold over 70% of the world's resources in the area of cobalt. That's important. We cannot wish that away. It is here to stay, and we must exploit it properly, strategically, cleverly, to benefit the lives of our people who need to be scaled out of poverty like yesterday. It is clear, and as such, this calls for deliberate efforts on the part of us, the African leaders. I want to repeat this. This calls for deliberate efforts on part of us, the African leaders, and our partners, to ensure sustainable development and management of these our resources. We in Zambia have taken a decision, and a very strong one, that we are tired of talking about Africa's potential. We don't want to hear someone in our country, hopefully on the continent, sing the song of potential. We want to realize that potential. We want to realize that potential to drive development, to alleviate poverty, amongst others. And there should be no excuses from us, especially us, the African leaders. We should not hide in any argument. We must just get the job done. Our people deserves better from us as leaders. We were elected to do just that. These efforts from all of us, include building downstream linkages aimed at promoting value addition, as the Minister from South Africa, Minister of Mines, indicated, manufacturing on our continent, as well as upstream linkages into mining capital goods, consumables, and indeed service industries. The development of supporting infrastructure, including in areas such as power. I heard my colleague Minister talked about power here. All of us on this continent should not accept the fact that we don't have sufficient power to drive our mining sector and other industries. We do have. We've just not been doing the work that we were elected to do. Now is the time to do that. So in power, logistics, and transport. Indeed, communications, significant investment, obviously in the area of research, technology, and development, amongst others, also remains critical to our development agenda, with mining being integral to that agenda. Our continent is endowed with vast mineral resources that largely remain undiscovered because we're not investing in exploration. And even when they're discovered, they're not exploited. Yet our people live in abject poverty. Unacceptable. Going forward. Unacceptable. We also have immense potential in the artisanal side and small-scale subsector, because this is important for our local populations in our countries to be involved in the mining sector. And small-scale mining, artisanal mining is an area, even large mining houses must work with governments to make it possible for people to participate in the mining sector. I think that will bring us the much-needed social contracts that we need from our voters. Very important. It is clear that aggressive investment into exploration will unlock the undiscovered mineral resources and create enormous social-economic impact. That will not only lift many of our people, as I've said, out of poverty, but create new wealth and prosperity on our continent. I've said it before, chairperson of this Indaba, that personally, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that we have so much poverty on our continent amidst so much wealth. This is an inherent contradiction, which we, working together, must resolve. We have an opportunity to actualize Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, which is anchored on harnessing the continent's endowments, embodied in people and natural resources. We are, however, cognizant of the threats that stand in the way of actualizing our aspirations as a people, as a continent. Civil strife, for example. Civil strife, for example. Conflict, instability which has characterized a number of mineral-rich African countries. We thought we were putting this issue away, but it's re-emerged in the last couple of years. And this is not good for us at all. So we must endeavor to foster peace and stability across the continent, because conflict definitely impedes investment. Conflict and other issues obviously endanger our desire and abilities to deliver social and economic growth for our people. I therefore wish to underscore Zambia's support, our country's support, aimed at efforts, all efforts aimed at resolving the ongoing conflicts on our continent. We as a country are in support of that, and I believe other countries should do that. I'm sure they are doing that. And elsewhere in the world, conflict not just on our continent, but elsewhere in the world. We often stress the point, and I think I've repeated this on many platforms that I've had the opportunity to attend, that we stress this point, that instability anyway is a threat to stability everywhere. There's no question about that. We've seen what's happening in Europe. Long before, the message, the narrative was driven that conflict is Africa, and Africa is conflict. No, it's not true. Conflict, instability is not Africa. Yes, it's Africa, but it's also Europe. It's America. It's everywhere. We should not allow this to continue. I think it's not a question of who believes in what, who supports who. Yes, I heard the minister from South Africa say that. But aggression leading to conflict is taking away opportunities from us to invest more in the mining sector and to realize value for all our people. And I think we should not accept it. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to share with you our vision of a new dawn for Zambia's mining sector. Since coming into office, our party coming into office 8 months ago, our government has been determined and focused on efforts to revive the Zambian economy. Our economy is anchored by the mining sector, which historically has been a major contributor to our development. We undoubtedly believe in its potential to be an even greater contributor to our economy, as we welcome active and pragmatic collaboration with the mining industry and other players, financials, technology providers. The list is long. We are committed to building a resilient, sustainable mining industry anchored on environmental, social, and indeed governance standards and best practice, because this is a bare minimum if we have to do it correctly. Our determination towards industrialization, obviously job creation, business opportunities is very clear. It's very clear for those that have been following us 8 months back. We're very determined, and we will not allow anything to stand in the way of clearing all hurdles that will allow investments, especially in the mining sector and other sectors, for obvious reasons. We are open for business. I heard the minister from South Africa say it, we shall repeat it. Zambia is open for business, and we are open to engage and partner with all of you here and those that are not present today. As many of you are aware, Zambia is a key player in the global copper mining industry. It's already been mentioned here, and is home to vast reserves of copper, cobalt, and other minerals. We are addressing factors that constrain investment and putting in place factors that catalyze this investment. Our investment environment would undoubtedly be 1, transparent, 2, consistent, 3, predictable, 4, fair, and number 5, something many African leaders don't want to talk about, and I talk about with pleasure: intolerance to corruption. Intolerance to corruption. Momentum is building towards increased mineral production as new mining operations are opening. Old ones, somehow, which were challenged, we are unlocking those challenges. I have said to my colleagues in cabinet that work is not 8 hours to 17 hours. Work is deliverables. What do we deliver? Over what period of time? That's the way we are looking at things in Zambia. We are building strategic partnerships that will help position Zambia for future prosperity in the context of Africa. There's no way Zambia can talk of prosperity in isolation to Africa's prosperity. It's not possible. The scale is small, of course, but demand doesn't sit in our domestic jurisdiction for what we may produce. It sits elsewhere, on the continent, and indeed in the global village. Just last month, we signed an MOU with Congo DR. Deliberately went out to work with our brothers in Congo and sisters in Congo to sign this MOU to facilitate the development of value chains in the electric battery and clean energy sector. Africa should and must cooperate in order to enlarge the envelope. Singularly, we are too small. We may have the people, but the people may not have effective demand. So we must work together to enlarge the envelope and to deliver benefits to all our people as much as is possible. Together, we will change the narrative that Africa is only, and I agree with the previous speaker, only a source of raw materials, and establish our nations as leading players in the era of electric vehicles. We don't want to be Cinderella to the electric vehicle industry. No, we want to be integral to this new industry, electric vehicles and green innovations. Not at the edges, but at the center. Of course, we are no threat to anybody. We work with those who have the technology, we work with those that have the the capital, as long as your capital is fairly priced, because Africa has been paying too much for its capital. I think this is time to lower the cost of capital on this continent. Our private sector partners, we call on you, Zambia, Africa, to work with us. Let's cut the distance between ourselves. And as such, as a country, we've taken a decision to work with the private sector, not once in a month, no, but all the time, through our public-private partnership dialogue forum. So we want to be together all the time. Come to do business with us. We want to hear you, we want to understand what your challenges are, how we can unlock those challenges. And I think that's a better way of working. We're not the first ones to do that. Others have done it and it's worked for them. We'd like it to work for us as well. We encourage investors to come up with similar schemes, views, ideas, new or existing, but need to be unlocked. And we'll work together to unlock these. We have a mining house in Zambia that they will be speaking after me, are investing more money in the mining sector, but also putting money in solar, in wind energy. We encourage that. First Quantum is doing that. Copper, I want to repeat, ladies and gentlemen, is critical in the greener energy transition, and there's an ever-increasing demand for it. What an opportunity. We are determined to respond to the high demand for copper and have an audacious goal to take our annual production of copper from the current 830 metric tons per year to 3 million tons per year. Very ambitious. We are not ashamed of being ambitious. This indeed will happen, but it will happen only working with yourselves as investors, as financiers, as technology providers. Our improving conducive operating environment, willingness to work with investors and mining entities, our abundant mineral resources, as I've said, are factors which will make this goal a reality, with no doubt about it. Dear friends, allow me to reiterate the Zambian government's commitment to supporting domestic economic empowerment and job creation without resource nationalism. Sounds a contradiction, it's not. We can achieve both. We want our citizens to play a critical role in our mining value and supply chain, along with your investment. Yes, that's the way it should be. This will undoubtedly add to the sustainability of our investment, your investment in our country, and secure the much needed social contract. Very important, extremely important. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the important role that the private sector plays in the development of the mining industry. In response, our government policy will promote a private sector-driven, competitive, thriving, and sustainable mining industry. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to state categorically that Zambia is governed by the rule of law. It is for this reason that mechanisms are already in place to entrench and enhance tenets of good governance in the administration of mineral rights. Quite important as well. We assure investors of security of tenure and security of their investments, while at the same time ensuring a fair share for Zambian citizens. We didn't do that, we will mislead the investors. Not too long, conflicts will arise, and we don't want that, because that's disruptive to our agenda, our joint agenda. As we continue to enhance investor confidence, we are implementing robust policy and legal reforms aimed at stimulating the growth of the sector in the medium to long term. And again, let's work together. There may be items, issues we don't know, we are not aware as government, but you as an investor are aware. Bring it to the table. Let's talk about it. Let's resolve it together. We are building institutional capacity to facilitate increased in-country processing for various mineral commodities. The reason is clear, but we are challenged. Railways, roads, and this is another one important area, infrastructure, where we believe that as mining investors, we must take interest, share ideas on how we can improve, how we can identify other colleagues similar to us, similar to you, who share the agenda of development for Africa. For example, to invest in the railway system. And I think in this country, South Africa, it is imperative that we work together. 4 countries work together. 4+. I don't want to be accused after my speech that I left out one country. But South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Congo, dear, really, we need to find some common ground to fix our railway system for movement of our goods and services, including the Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure transparency in the administration and issuance of mining rights, we have imposed a moratorium on the issuance of mining rights in our country, only for a short while, to clean it up. We inherited a system, practices that were unhealthy. So for the mining investors, we are doing this only for a short while to clean up the system. And you'll be happy once we reopen the mining license rights. You'll be very happy. Because one of the things we want to root out is just endemic corruption around the mineral resources. And that does not help anyone, including yourself, Mr. President. It will be open very soon. We are now working towards operationalization of the online payment portal to promote efficiency and integrity in the administration of the mining rights system in our country. You don't have to do what you were asked to do just 10 months ago, to keep queuing there, to talk to too many officials. Along the way, you know things happen. You know the things that were happening. And we want to make sure that that's a thing of the past. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take this opportunity to re-emphasize that Zambia is endowed with too much, with a lot. Between Zambia and Congo DR, it's just something else. But we've never systematically addressed the opportunities that lie in this sector, the mining sector. So that's what we're working on doing, not just in Zambia, but together with others. Congo DR is just one. We'd like to cooperate with other countries in many sectors. I think we'll do better to cooperate than to work in isolation. We see a future, obviously, where electric vehicle components, which include batteries, copper pipes, and cables, and others, will be produced in Zambia, in Congo DR, yes, Minister Mantashe, in South Africa. Yes, you're already doing a lot, but we want all of us to do something. And that gives us an opportunity to develop the Africa Free Trade Area. I have said this point before. In the Africa Free Trade Area agenda, if other countries' citizens don't see benefits, they will resist. The only way to make it possible and work for everybody is to ensure that benefits are spread across one or two countries only, but broadly. But we understand competitive and comparative advantage. We understand it. We are not oblivious to it. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we are ensuring that development of our air, road, as I said, rail, and others are part of the mining agenda. Otherwise, the facilitation will not be there. We invite investors to come to Zambia and see for themselves the vast potential in the mining sector and the sectors that support it. Please do come. Please, let's network in this Indaba, 2022 Indaba. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted with the first quantum minerals announcement of 2 landmark investments in Zambia. We set out to unlock this opportunity, and others will be announcing very soon, because they were standing in our way of achieving the 3 million tons per year of production. Just copper, but it also in other sectors we're working on targets. So we're very delighted that First Quantum has unlocked an opportunity that was hanging around for over 10 years. And in 8 months, we set an agenda that 1, 2, 3, we shall unlock one of the most First Quantums. We're very delighted that this investment has been unlocked. You'll hear from them shortly after my speech. I could talk about figures, but I will allow them to talk about figures. But broadly, for us as a small country, when you have a total investment, additional investment of $1.3 billion, it's not small. It's a lot in one project, 1 or 2 projects. So we're very delighted with that. This is an example of what we want to do going forward. You have a project in Zambia, you are an investor, you are seated in this Indaba, you have been challenged, things are not moving, talk to the Minister of Mines, he's here, seated over there. Talk to the Minister of Finance, he's seated over there, and officials. As we return home, we want to schedule your issue, your case, and unlock it as we go back home. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for the invitation to grace this mining Indaba. I thank you for your kind attention. God bless you.
Many thanks, Your Excellency, for honouring us with your perspective at this year's Mining Indaba. I'd now like to welcome Tristan Pascal, CEO of First Quantum Minerals, to give his vote of thanks to His Excellency, the President of Zambia.
Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I am honoured to have been asked to address you this morning and to follow in the footsteps of His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia. From the early days of our company as a junior miner in the mid-1990s at Wanamagubwa, near Indaba there, to the present day, First Quantum has grown and changed beyond all recognition, and so has Zambia. It's a simple story, really, to which many of you can relate, and that is that when mining does well, so does Zambia, and so do Zambians. First Quantum has been in partnership with Zambia for 26 years. It has been a partnership which has prospered, but at times along the way, it's also had its share of differences. At First Quantum, we have learned from these differences that it is no longer enough to aspire to operational excellence alone. As an industry, we need to be relentless in improving our beneficial impact to society, particularly in our host communities. We must prove that we are no longer simply an extractive industry. We must measure our value contribution not only in our direct financial contributions to government, but also the multiplier that mining creates in the value chain, which is like irrigation for the wider economy. And we must articulate and encourage a participatory approach in our broader contributions to social infrastructure, health and education, and in the advancement of livelihoods in the communities around us. We must demonstrate to our host societies and to the end users of our products throughout the world that we put back into society more than we take out of the ground in mines, in minerals from the ground. Furthermore, we must be clear on the direct link between mining and a better future for emerging economies, and also a better future for the globe through provision of the energy and performance metals that are needed for the transition to greater renewable energy use. And we must demonstrate with our actions that this can be achieved in an environmentally responsible manner and through long-lasting partnerships. This is mining in the 21st century. In this vein, and for many months now, we have been working with our partners in President Hichilema's New Dawn government. Our greatest overall achievements in this recent period, after so many ups and downs in the last decade, has been to rebuild credibility and trust between us. For this rebuilt trust, I personally particularly want to thank His Excellency the President for his leadership, and also the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Honourable Musukutwani, and the Minister of Mines and Minerals, Honourable Kabuswe, who are here today. More broadly, and in their conversations with the Zambian mining industry as a whole, since its election, the government of Zambia has been clear on its intent to grow the economy and reform the investment climate of the country. And it has also been clear on the role that the Zambian mining industry has to play in contributing to society and the communities of the country. This effort is coming to fruition today. The initiative for a new dawn for Zambia's mining sector, which was announced just now by President Hichilema this morning, provides the platform for a stable, durable and responsible mining in Zambia. At First Quantum, we support this initiative, and in response we are excited to provide new commitments to Zambia in line with its ambitions to reinvigorate its standing as a world-class mining destination. In line with His Excellency's comments this morning, we must realise the potential of Africa. Mining is a multi-decade, multi-generational endeavour that long outlasts us as individuals. First Quantum's relationships with Zambia was forged decades ago by a previous generation of leaders. And Zambia has been a great part of my own personal growth, having spent 8 years living and working on the mines in Zambia. So it gives me great pleasure, as my first act as CEO of this company, to be able to announce a doubling down of First Quantum's investments in Zambia through a major recommitment to the country, which will see our mines continue to operate for decades to come. The Kansanshi mine, which went into production in 2005, was our first large-scale copper project, and it has been the linchpin of the company ever since. Just last year, Kansanshi employed 8,500 people and paid around $500 million in taxes and other public contributions to Zambia, which was a significant portion of the overall First Quantum contribution to the country of around $850 million in the year. But as with most mines, ore grades have deteriorated over time. And so today we have announced a new $1.25 billion investment that will radically upgrade Kansanshi and extend its life for at least another 20 years. The decision to proceed with the S3 project, as we call it, will substantially increase production and Zambia's tax revenues from the mine, alongside safeguarding and increasing employment. And it will add to the range of social investments and community contributions made by our Kansanshi Foundation, especially when compared to the alternative scenario of the mine reducing and coming to an end to an earlier life. Our investment in S3 will also include further investment in downstream processing at the smelter. A further $115 million will be invested in new technology for advancement of downstream processing at the mine. At the same time, we have announced today a further $100 million investment on top of the $150 million already spent to date to bring our Enterprise nickel mine into production within the next 12 months. Of course, the national significance of this investment is that it represents a major step forward in diversifying Zambia's minerals basket further into the battery supply chain. Once operational, it will be a top 10 global nickel operation, putting Zambia at the forefront of nickel production in Africa. And the Enterprise mine will also power further social contribution to the Trident Foundation in the Kalambila town in northwestern province. The announcement today to proceed with these new investments offers First Quantum and Zambia both continuity and progress. It ensures that Kansanshi's status as Zambia's flagship copper mine is maintained, and it opens up a whole new future with both our new Enterprise mine as a major producer of nickel, and both of those being critical to the old economy and the new. Furthermore, it represents the first critical step on the road towards the Zambian government's ambitious objective of expanding copper production to a total of 3 million tonnes per year. This level of expansion, which is achievable as it was achieved in Chile in the 1990s, will require a great deal of frontline exploration in Zambia, in which First Quantum will also provide contribution. And it will require other investors to follow. This we fully expect to occur under the clear commitments made by government to reform the investment climate for mining in Zambia. Zambia is not only positioning itself as a source of strategic metals for the future green economy, it is mining those metals with a very low carbon footprint, thanks to the abundance of hydroelectric power in the country and the efforts that First Quantum and others to build out even more renewable energy. And recently we announced that we will invest with our partners in building more than 400 megawatts of solar and wind power in Zambia. To all of you assembled here today, I tell you that Zambia is back. The country has a grand plan for the development of the mining industry and how that may serve as a flywheel to drive growth in the wider economy. Zambia understands and have articulated clearly to the Zambian public that such ambition requires a credible and stable approach to engagement with investors. They understand in a business-minded fashion that investors need policy stability and predictability in in such a long-term game as mining. It does feel today like we're entering a new and better future. Certainly at First Quantum, we have made the commitment to invest in Zambia's future. You heard His Excellency say today, Zambia is open for business. As I look around this room, I wonder which of you will also answer the President's call and look to your future in Zambia. You will be sure of a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tristan Pascal, CEO of First Quantum Minerals. Thank you for your vote of thanks. Now, Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to welcome His Excellency Mokgweetsi Masisi, President of the Republic of Botswana.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Director of Ceremonies, Your Excellency and dear brother, President Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, Your Excellency Jean-Michel Sama Ikonda, Yenge, Prime Minister of the DRC, Honourable Minister Gwede Mantashe, Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, the Republic of South Africa, who is also hosting us, Honourable Ministers from other countries here present, Captains of Industry, and delegates from across the world attending this Indaba, members of the media fraternity, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm indeed honored to have been invited to make a keynote address at this momentous occasion, the African Mining Indaba Conference of 2022. I am told that the conference attracts more than 6,500 mining experts every year, and has been held successfully for the past 27 years, yes, in the mother city of Cape Town, South Africa. I'm indeed delighted to be part of this 28th edition of the conference and attending in person this time, having addressed the conference in a virtual format in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The return to physical attendance of this important event is a sign that things are slowly beginning to return to normalcy. I must hasten to state that we are not out of the woods yet, but light is beginning to show at the end of the tunnel. I'm informed that this year's edition of the conference is held under the theme, Evolution of African Mining, Investing in the Energy Transition, ESG, and the Economies. Following the adoption of the Paris Agreement in December 2015, which came into force on the 4th of November 2016, many countries embarked on efforts to assess the consequences of climate change and ultimately came up with policy measures that could help support the transition to low-carbon economies. ESG, a process of considering environmental, social, and governance factors when making investment decisions, has become a leading form of sustainable finance in a number of companies and jurisdictions. In line with ESG ideals, Botswana's mineral policy of 2021 aims to strengthen and outline the government's role in mineral resource management and foster effective partnerships with the private sector, while at the same time strengthening institutional frameworks. The government of Botswana, in administering the policy, is guided by the principles of ensuring timely development and implementation of mineral projects, fostering a competitive environment for investment, security of tenure, provision of a stable, transparent, progressive, and predictable fiscal regime, protection of the environment, public safety, contribution to sustainable economic growth, as well as support to sustainable livelihoods. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and dear delegates, the evolution of mining in Africa is one that is characterized by mixed fortunes, some pleasant and some not so pleasant. This year's theme comes at the right time, when many jurisdictions are standing at the crossroads and searching for a path that leads to the fulfillment of sustainable development goals. In the wake of the deteriorating state of global climatic conditions, no one can afford to be left behind, and indeed, no one should be left behind. Botswana has a long history in exploration and mining. While archaeological and other scientific evidence points to mining activities from as far back as the Middle and Late Stone Ages, modern mining started with the rediscovery of gold around the present-day Francistown in 1865. Yes, Mr. Mantashe, 1865. Approximately 25% of Botswana land area is covered by pre-Kalahari geological formations, and this is where most of the current operating mines in Botswana have been discovered. The unexposed 75% covered by sands are potential untapped mineral prospects that can drive mineral investments. Botswana government continues to invest in creating pre-competition data to promote exploration. The government is completing a project that will also bring coverage of geological mapping to 90% nationwide through interpretation of geophysics data covering northern Botswana that has, in the past, remained largely unexplored due to sand cover and remoteness. We therefore implore mining investors present here at this Mining Indaba conference to seriously consider coming to Botswana to carry out exploration and mining projects. We continue to expand the country's geological knowledge by mapping the subsurface geology to unlock mineral potential, as well as providing comprehensive data to private sector investment in mineral exploration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since the discovery of diamonds in Botswana in 1967, minerals have played a leading role in taking Botswana from among the poorest of countries to its middle income status. Mining remains the most important sector of Botswana's economy. Mineral production is dominated by diamonds, with lesser contributions from coal, soda ash, and salt, gold, nickel, cobalt, silver, uranium, manganese, and iron ore. However, what has over the years been a thorn in the flesh is the slow uptake of mineral beneficiation industries to diversify the economy, and this is an investment growth potential for the mining sector. The mining sector in Botswana was hit by a decline in the global mineral markets, coupled with the loss of contribution from the base metal mines such as BCL and Discovery Metals during the periods 2015 to 2019. Copper and nickel prices have been weak over the past 4 years, resulting in various mines across the world closing permanently or temporarily. As a consequence of this, we have experienced many job losses, and we must put up sound mitigation strategies. Despite these problems, there are signs of improvement in the market, which may support the reopening of some of the affected mines, as well as the development of new mines. Prospecting for copper, nickel, and silver in the Kalahari Belt is still continuing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the economy of Botswana was projected to grow by 12.7% in 2021, before moderating to 4% in 2022 and 4.2% in 2023. The positive growth reflects the easing of restrictions and resumption of activities that were postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These are anticipated to contribute to improvement in economic activity, particularly in the major sectors of mining, mainly around diamond industry, trade, hotels, restaurants, as well as growth in the transport and communication sector against a backdrop of advances in information technology. Botswana has enough skilled mining personnel, from graduates to experienced operators and experts, that the country is not able to absorb. The organized and regulated labor movement, which facilitates labor relations that offer platforms for engagement on labor matters, manages the risk of labor disputes that could disrupt operations. The overall progressive nature of Botswana's mineral policy and laws, together with its investment climate, makes Botswana competitive for the next investment dollar in the mineral space. Distinguished guests, this Mining Indaba conference is taking place at the right time when the world is emerging from a pandemic that brought livelihoods and businesses to a standstill from its outset. We are happy that signs of recovery, both in terms of human health and economic activities, are beginning to show as countries continue to vaccinate their populations. Botswana has been able to vaccinate more than 64% of its target population, exceeding the set World Health Organization target of 40% of the eligible population by December 2021. This milestone, I believe, should incentivize investors to visit, as the risk of the spread of COVID-19 virus is within manageable thresholds. The continued relaxation of COVID-19 travel restrictions is anticipated to increase sales of minerals, with corresponding increases in output levels in the medium term. Furthermore, the positive prospects of the mining industry are boosted by copper production, which started in 2021. The mining industry has seen a significant increase of prices of mineral commodities in 2021. For Botswana, the positive prospects for the mining sector are expected to continue well into 2022, in line with increased demand for rough diamonds and improved diamond prices. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate that given the prevailing business environments, I wish to extend to all of you an invitation to visit Botswana and invest in the country's vast wealth of mineral resources. As I have indicated, my government has gone to great lengths to ensure that the environment is right and conducive for investment. I thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite our presidents from Botswana, Zambia, and the DRC, as well as Honourable Minister Mantashe, to please make their way to the stage for a quick photo opportunity. I know everyone would like to grab it at the seats, but the lights are really good on stage. So if our photographers could please give our presidents just a brief space to come up onto the stage, and you'll get incredible photo opportunities. And if I can call Tristan Pascal, CEO of First Quantum Minerals, to make your way to stage as well, please.
Photo just with South Africa, so Tashe, Botswana, DRC, and the other ones here, if we can.
We'd like to ask our presidents of Botswana, DRC, and Zambia, as well as Honourable Minister Mantashe, to please remain on stage for a final photograph. Now, Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome our world-exclusive opening keynote speaker and new Chief Executive of Anglo-American Group, Duncan Van Blatt. Please could I ask you to put your hands together as he makes his way to stage.
Thanks very much, Liesl. His Excellency, the President of Botswana, Mokgweetsi Masisi, His Excellency, the President of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, His Excellency, Jean-Michel Sama-Lukonde, the Prime Minister of the DRC, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy here in South Africa, Minister Gwede Mantashe, Honourable Ministers from 30 countries represented here today and their administrations, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning. It is really a privilege for me to be here with you after what Liesl said this morning, two years and 2 months together as an industry, coming together in person. The last 2 years of the pandemic and the disruption that caused certainly tested all of us and all of the sectors in which we operate and large parts of society in the whole. But I'm very, very proud of how our industry responded in terms of our broad social role in many communities around our operations and all over the world. Mining is an industry that is renowned for its ups and downs. Now, some of those ups and downs are self-inflicted and sometimes not so self-inflicted. But when I reflect on this particular moment, standing here today, never before has there been such an obvious and an urgent demand for what we do, and more specifically, what we as an industry make possible. I'm probably preaching to the converted in this room, but the metals and minerals we mine are instrumental in spurring on extraordinary human progress and development. Just try and imagine a world without aeroplanes, without vehicles, without mobile phones, all of which are manufactured from materials which we mine. As the Minister reminded us this morning, if it is not grown, it is probably mined. Looking to our future, the world contends with urgent imperative to decarbonize. This is coupled with rapid urbanization and the dire need to address social inequality. And the demand for mined materials, I think, is set to increase even more. As an industry, our challenge is really clear. We need to go about satisfying that demand in a really different way from how we've been able to do it up until today. A way that is in harmony with the needs of society as well as the natural environment, while creating and in sharing enduring value in an inclusive way for all of our stakeholders. The mining industry, as a foundation of industrial development and growth, must continue to transform itself at pace if we are to achieve this new reality. There is no better time in my mind or place than right here and right now to reflect on our industry's role in enabling this transition to a low-carbon future. As the world rallies towards the urgent goal of net zero, it is mining that must provide the feedstocks that are necessary for wholesale decarbonation, and do so in the cleanest and the most socially responsible way that we know how. I am encouraged by the progress that we have made as an industry from a few years ago, just talking about climate change, to actually now advancing climate action. Across the board, we are setting out pathways to reduce emissions by taking a more proactive stance on how we remodel our operations to perform in a carbon-neutral future. And in our case, the Minister did trump me a little bit this morning but in our case on Friday at Mogalakwena PGM operations in the Limpopo province, we launched what we believe will be a game changer in the reduction of on-site mining emissions. Our hybrid battery fuel cell, hydrogen-powered, ultra-class mine haul truck. That's quite a mouthful, I assure you, but it's quite a truck too, for those that haven't seen it. Thank you. And we did that right here in the Limpopo province in South Africa, and that makes me very, very proud. This prototype truck forms part of our new-gen zero-emission haulage solution vision. This is an end-to-end integrated green hydrogen production, fueling and haulage system with the potential to remove up to 80% of the diesel emissions that are generated in our open-cut operations globally. I think this marks an enormous step forward for mining, but for the industry and other industries at large too. This is the first time a truck of this size and load capacity, so just to put that into perspective, it carries a load of 290 tons and it's on a 220-ton chassis, so it's a beast. And it has been developed to run on hydrogen and operate in real mining conditions, proving, I believe, the case for a wider adoption and the use of hydrogen across the heaviest duty forms of transport, where batteries alone just simply will not work. It is also a very tangible demonstration of our Future Smart Mining program and how we are applying innovative thinking and technological advances to deliver positive and sustainable outcomes. Beyond the mine gate, this project is also a significant development for South Africa and the development of its emerging hydrogen economy, which offers so much economic employment and promise when supported by appropriate policy and regulatory frameworks. And while we work to decarbonize our own operations and those of our customers, there is one key point that I think often gets lost in this debate, and it is this. The world just cannot decarbonize without the products of mining. Mining is the cornerstone, and it is the enabler of the energy transition. So just take the platinum group metals, and we heard that spoken about by our minister this morning as well, as an example. These have long played, and will continue to play, an extremely important role in reducing vehicle emissions. They will play an even more important role in the production of green hydrogen and its use to store energy. A hydrogen economy powered by renewables could meet the substantial demand for the world's energy needs by 2050. The secular shift has the potential to create entirely new economic sectors and the jobs that go along with them to power those sectors. The picture is even more positive for copper, perhaps, a critical metal traditionally associated with just the transmission of electricity. It is now also a key ingredient in an era of clean, green, renewable, and sustainable energy. Copper is at the heart of every wind turbine, it's at the heart of every electric vehicle, and it's at the heart of every solar farm that you see. I reckon I could speak about the virtues of many other mined metals and minerals, but I think my point is clear. Mining has a long-term role in enabling the energy transition, and in helping to deliver this transition, we need to ensure that all mining is now climate-smart mining. This transition is not only about decarbonizing energy, but it is also about how we create opportunities for a shared prosperity. We often forget that the history of development is fundamentally a history of energy and of economic transitions. Each stage of economic development has been accompanied by an energy transition of some sort, from one primary fuel source to another. And today, that shift is away from fossil fuels and towards more clean energy sources. And as economies develop and become more complex, the energy needs increase significantly. But then, so do society's expectations. And we know that the world will shift to renewable energy, but how this shift happens is just as important as the fact that it does happen. It must be able to be done in a way that leaves no one behind, no employee behind, no community behind, and ultimately must feel justified and just as would have been done to all by the time that the transition is complete. It is in this regard that I believe the mining industry can, and indeed should, play a leading role in building a more collaborative and inclusive economy that places people and the principle of shared prosperity at the heart of development. The energy transition currently underway presents a fresh opportunity for South Africa to build a clean and inclusive energy ecosystem that can create new and economic opportunities for this great country and indeed for other countries on this continent. Such shifts need us all in the private and public sectors to think quite differently about how we make these things happen. We all need to get out of our current comfort zones and think outside of the traditional models of mining minerals. Policy support, regulatory certainty, and robust state institutions, of course, these are incredibly important. But I was really pleased to hear this morning that so too are the rule of law, security, and the rooting out of corruption. If the last 2 years of dealing with the impacts of the pandemic have actually taught us anything, I think it might just be this: that the power of partnership, of working together, does absolutely bring and achieve extraordinary outcomes. And it is here that I believe that our industry, along with other industries now, can pool our expertise with government to build greater capacity and resilience within the public sector. This continent, with its vast natural reserves of abundant sun and wind, provide an unmissable opportunity to both decarbonize and create significant new economic sectors. And here at Anglo American, we are committed to play our role in making that vision or that opportunity a reality. In March this year, we announced a groundbreaking partnership with EDF Renewables. They are a global leader in renewable energy, and we plan to work together with them and together with other partners, and especially with governments, towards developing a regional renewable energy ecosystem right here in Southern Africa. The idea is that this ecosystem would provide between 3 and 5 gigawatts of renewable generation capacity, and that would represent for us at Anglo American 100% of our own energy requirements. That's a fairly large proportion of the 25 gigawatts of renewable energy that this country has already stated it is aiming to have implemented by the end of the decade. The ecosystem itself will involve the construction of on-site photovoltaic plants and off-site wind farms, helping us to reduce not only our Scope 2 emissions, but provide the foundation for a green energy production, a green hydrogen production, which was not only designed to power just our haul trucks, but perhaps a hydrogen corridor that runs all the way from the Limpopo province down to the KwaZulu-Natal coastline. We see this ecosystem as being much more than just energy. A wide range of new economic opportunities can be generated, but to ensure that this value is created and shared inclusively is incredibly important. And we must consider how we can use the transition as a springboard for unlocking a nation's growth and the development potential. Again here, I think partnerships are the only way forward. We've adopted a particular approach that we believe best suits our shared objectives. We call this collaborative regional development. CRD for short. I don't think you can get away these days without a 3-letter acronym somewhere. But it is our innovative partnership model for fostering economic activity beyond mining in the regions where we operate. CRD is designed simply to improve people's lives by creating truly thriving communities that endure and prosper well beyond the life of a mine. The success of CRD absolutely depends on quality partnerships that co-create enduring value. in South Africa, the partnership that we have formed is called the Impact Catalyst. And this is a partnership with the Industrial Development Corporation as a financial partner, alongside government, NGOs, and other businesses like Exaro. This approach provides, I believe, a comprehensive and scalable benefit for our stakeholders, including members of the community who benefit from this prosperity. Let me give you a few tangible examples here. Following the successful launch and several pilot projects in the Limpopo province, spanning very broad sectors from agriculture and tourism all the way through to technology, right down to 3D printing and manufacturing, we began work a little later on in the Northern Cape to expand community access to broadband and other communication technologies. This includes projects focused on economic development, education, health, municipal infrastructure, and early childhood development. So not just a typical mining company, I would say. Simultaneously, we have partnered with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs here in South Africa to develop the Municipal Capability and Partnership Program, laying the foundation for an adaptive approach in which, working together, we would solve and improve service delivery and ultimately contribute to an improved quality of life of our communities, where millions of people will experience the effects of the energy transition. The program is helping to address interrelated challenges across 9 municipal areas in South Africa, including the impact of climate change, food security, the creation of sustainable livelihoods and jobs, the financial stability of those municipalities. We really are thinking very holistically about what this just transition could mean for all of the people of this region. Lastly, we should not underestimate how much more we will need to innovate to make sure that this transition is successful. Mining's challenges, be they operational, be they environmental or social, these all create a perfect platform, in my view, for innovation. In our case, Future Smart Mining has galvanized us to develop innovative mining methods and technologies to make our operations safer in the first instance. That was the primary driver. But then to overcome challenges of water availability, lower ore grades, and increasing energy requirements to ultimately reduce our overall environmental footprint, as well as to reduce the capital intensity of our businesses and improve our operating cost positions. But it really doesn't end there, because central to Future Smart Mining is how we engage more broadly for better societal outcomes. Integrated into our sustainable mining plan is our commitment to advocate for the right policies to drive positive change in and around mining. We do this by taking a lead and a stance on issues that affect our business and can bring about real and positive change to society as a whole, be that locally or globally, such as the development of responsible sourcing standards to drive ethical value chains, or working with governments and regulators to bring mine permitting up to date, such that it accommodates new technologies and new modern working practices. Over the coming decade, the capability to innovate and bring innovation successfully to the market will be a crucial determinant, I believe, of the global competitiveness of industries such as mining and of nations such as those in Southern Africa. To that end, South Africa and many other mining jurisdictions on the African continent have an opportunity now to position themselves for this coming era and then to harness the considerable benefits that this will bring. That time is now. Backed up by forward-thinking, regulatory frameworks that support innovation, allow technology implementation, and incentivize mineral exploration so that we can unlock this promise together. To paint the picture more vividly, delivering a 2-degree pathway, and this is the data that I have, it's not even talking to the 1.5-degree pathway that the Paris Agreement believes, or we've all signed up to, that is a minimum requirement for this planet. So just a 2-degree pathway will require almost $2 trillion in capital over the next 15 years. $2 trillion of capital. This is new capital, and it will have to be invested in finding and bringing to market the green metals and minerals that are abundant in many parts of this continent. The people of mineral and energy-rich Africa will not forgive us if we miss an era-defining opportunity for them and their countries. The question that we need to ask ourselves throughout this year's Indaba is, how do we ensure that this transition is now not a missed opportunity for Africa? Time is no longer on our side. In closing, I want to underscore the significant opportunity that we collectively have before us as an industry. By transforming ourselves, we are setting up the foundations for a new economy, and the African continent can and should again play a leading role in this. Coming from a country with a very, very deep mining heritage, I have often rarely been inspired by how widespread the benefits of mining are shared, compared with pretty much any other industry. Mining is an industry that, of course, pays its taxes where the value is generated, so that is to say in the countries where the metals and minerals are mined. It shares value directly with host communities and makes a positive impact at scale. It provides a wide range of essential services in often remote and underserved regions, from education to health, from electricity to running water, and often serves as the anchor economic tenant in a region that is stimulating entire local economies. Simply put, mining is everybody's industry. This is an industry at the very heart of modern life, an industry that is helping to build a new economy and to save our planet. For 8 billion people who actually depend on our metals and minerals every day of their lives, some of whom don't even realize that they do. As the world decarbonizes, we recognize that this moment is not only about the role of mined products in the energy transition, but this moment is also about how we lead the way in helping to develop new models of shared prosperity as part of what must be a just transition. This is so important if we're going to shift perceptions of mining amongst the broader society, and as consumers rightly start to care a lot more about the provenance, which is the ethical sourcing of the raw minerals and the raw materials that form part of the products that they spend their hard-earned money on. The burden of expectation is upon us to mine responsibly, considering the full breadth of our stakeholder universe and recognizing absolutely that stakeholder value takes many, many forms and is absolutely in the eye of the beholder. Mining is not just a part of or a cog in the future of the global economy and the planet that we all share. I believe it is absolutely the bedrock. Together, we can really improve people's lives and the prospects of our planet, our silent but our most delicate stakeholder. I thank you.
Thank you very much to the Chief Executive of Anglo-American Group, Duncan Van Blatt, for those words. Now, if I could please ask you to welcome our next speaker to stage, Sinead Kaufman, Chief Executive Minerals for Rio Tinto. Put your hands together, please.
Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure to be back in South Africa and here at Mining Indaba. This is my first Mining Indaba since being appointed as Rio Tinto's Chief Executive for Minerals and also our Africa sponsor. And I feel very lucky to be able to attend, as all of you do, in person. Many of you may remember my predecessor, Bold Batar, who is now leading our copper product group, and he continues to progress the Simandou project in Guinea. Simandou will no doubt provide to continue to be valuable to Rio Tinto, but also transformational to Guinea. Recently, together with the Ghanaian government, we signed a framework agreement which sets out the co-development of vital port and rail infrastructure, which is an important step towards realizing Simandou's potential. When I was appointed in my new role, most of the world was under some form of lockdown restrictions, which meant taking over such a geographically diverse product group came with its own challenges, but it was also quite exciting. And on a personal note, becoming Rio Tinto's Africa sponsor for me felt like a full circle moment. When I joined the mining industry back in 1997 as a geologist, my first job was at Palabora underground mine. At the time, it was a development project. And back then, I remember being one of the first women to work underground and used to buy my own gloves and boots online because the site didn't have them in my size. So a lot has happened since then, and a lot has changed since then for the mining sector as a whole, for Rio Tinto as an organization, and for me as a leader in the mining industry. These changes are some of the topics that I'd like to cover today. So around the same time that I joined Rio Tinto in 1997, the world saw its first climate change agreement, the Kyoto Protocol. And for many, this was the first real indication that major emitters, such as the mining industry, would need to prepare for a climate-conscious future. This was reaffirmed in 2015 with the Paris Climate Agreement, when almost 200 countries met and pledged to set emission targets that would stave off climate change and severe disruptions by keeping the global temperature increases under a 1.5 degree Celsius threshold. So currently, the warming trajectory suggests we are closer to an average global temperature increase of 2.5 degrees Celsius. And this should concern us, and I believe for the vast majority of people in the world, it does. According to the African Development Bank, 7 out of 10 countries most vulnerable to climate change are here in Africa. And already we're seeing some of the effects of that play out in real time. We saw this here in South Africa with the recent floods that caused significant damage to KZN and tragically the loss of 450 people's lives. We've seen similar events in other parts of the continent too. In the first few months of this year, Madagascar, where we have our QMM mineral sands operations, was hit by 5 storms and tropical cyclones, which affected almost 1 million people. This is noticeably higher than the annual average of about 1.5 cyclones a year, which typically would affect up to about 700,000 people. Such extreme weather events have caused rising sea levels in Africa's Indian Ocean islands. Madagascar and Mauritius have seen sea levels rise above 5 millimeters per year, which is much higher than the global average of 3 or 4 millimeters per year. Beyond the direct impacts of climate change on the continent, but there are concerning knock-on effects as well that need to be considered. For example, according to the African Climate Policy Centre, at current temperatures, Africa's GDP is expected to be impacted negatively between 2 and 12%, risking jobs that are vital to keeping millions of people out of poverty. The truth is, climate change is the biggest existential risk that we face, and one that does require an urgent response everywhere in the world, and no different to here in Africa. To complicate this challenge, addressing climate change requires the sort of global partnership and collaboration that has become quite fragile at a time of growing deglobalization and disconnectedness. Still, regardless of those global divisions, the concern for climate change and the environment has not fallen away. If anything, it's grown stronger, and societies have an increasing demand for governments and businesses to address this existential risk. So what does that mean for us miners? What's our contribution to the demands of society, and how do we deliver on them? And what actions do we take to mitigate the worst effects of climate change? To answer these questions, certainly for within Rio Tinto, let me look at it from our lens, and particularly what some of our businesses look like here on the African continent. In 2021, recognizing the urgency of this challenge, my colleagues and I in Rio Tinto set out to develop our most ambitious climate change strategy with a vision of transitioning to a low-carbon future. With this strategy, we aren't only responding to the global challenge, but we're leveraging what we believe is an opportunity for us to reshape our role in a future that demands care, courage, and curiosity. These are values that we hold and are ones that we are determined to demonstrate in everything we do. So what will we do differently? Well, firstly, we'll accelerate our own decarbonisation, switching to renewable power, electrifying processing technologies, and where possible, running mobile fleets through electric power. This is in line with our new climate commitments, which brings forward to 2025 our previous 2030 target of a 15% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 emissions. And we're also tripling our previous 2030 target from 15% reduction to a 50% reduction of Scope 1 and 2. And that's against our 2018 baseline as an organisation. All of this is in preparation to being a net zero business by 2050. We need to increase our investment in R&D spend to speed up this development of technologies and also to help enable our customers to decarbonise. And this also includes developing technologies that can maximise value derived from the circular economy. On Friday last week, as an example, Rio Tinto and Iron and Titanium announced the successful production of its first batch of high-purity Scandium oxide from ore mined out of Canada and Madagascar, becoming the first North American producer of this critical mineral. For those who are wondering what Scandium oxide is used for, we use it specifically for technologies in solid oxide batteries and also in basically a alloy of materials. The process is actually mined from a waste stream of an existing operation, and using new technologies, we've managed to extract this from an existing process, hence having a much lower carbon footprint for the process as well. This sort of material, when it's used to strengthen aluminium and create alloys, it also helps to meet our customer demands for technology in the future as well, and particularly for infrastructure. Finally, we also will prioritise growth capital in commodities that are essential to drive a net zero outcome for the world. Our steel, which is used in solar panels, copper, used to drive energy efficiency, will continue to be areas of growth for our business. Lithium, borates, and other critical minerals will also be a priority going forward, and the one that will be driven by our new battery materials business, which focuses on finding, producing, and refining critical minerals to meet our climate commitments. I'm proud to say that since we announced the new battery materials business in less than a year, we've already seen that strategy rolling out across the world. For example, in December last year, together with the Madagascan government, we launched the construction of an 8-megawatt solar plant and a 12-megawatt wind plant at our QMM operation in Fort Dauphin. Once completed, this renewable energy project will place up to 60% of the mine's coal-fired electricity consumption with clean energy. QMM is leading the charge towards sustainable mining, and as an operation, QMM has set itself the goal of being carbon neutral by the end of next year. Such renewable energy initiatives are a major step towards achieving this, and they also contribute to Rio Tinto's group targets. Of course, because of Madagascar's unique biodiversity, I think it's important that when we speak about QMM, I also mention some of the work we're doing in this regard as well. So significant effort is being made with regards to sustaining the flora and fauna that surround QMM, and much of this has been done through partnerships with local and international NGOs, including BirdLife International and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. As part of the drive towards being a sustainable mine, in 2021, we began a program of off-site afforestation, planting 500 hectares last year, with a further 1,500 hectares to be planted by the end of this year. Over QMM's life of mine, we would also restore 300 hectares of wetlands and 200 hectares of littoral forest on the Mandena deposit, which is carefully selected native species. Our communities who depend on the vegetation in the area are also benefiting from this restoration program. In 2021, 600 community members harvested plants native to the region from previously restored wetlands. One example of a plant in particular that is harvested is used to make traditional mats and products that can also be sold to supplement household incomes. Like in Madagascar, our environmental programs in South Africa strive to ensure that we leave our mined areas in the same condition that we found them. Our Richards Bay operation in KwaZulu-Natal aims to achieve a 1-to-1 ratio of land use and land rehabilitation as soon as areas mined become available. To date, our rehabilitated areas are over 3,300 hectares. Both QMM and RBM form part of our iron and titanium business, and I think it's a good example of how we can contribute to meeting the demands of people and our planet. As we decarbonise our operations and protect our environment at the front end of the value chain, further downstream, we continue to share low-carbon transition objectives by providing customers with the inputs to renewable technologies, such as wind turbines, which are coated with some of the iron and titanium products. As I said, collaboration is absolutely critical and essential to responding to climate change. And here in Africa, we continue to seek opportunities to work both with our customers, suppliers, governments, and partners to deliver on our collective desire to reduce carbon emissions. Of course, our host communities continue to be critical partners, and one that we know will benefit from our decarbonisation drive and our environmental stewardship. An example at QMM's renewable energy project, which will provide energy to the communities also surrounding the mine as well as the operation. Our relationships with communities are of the utmost importance, and we have adopted a much more attentive approach, one that first seeks to listen and to learn and build lasting, meaningful relationships. We haven't always got this right and have faced significant challenges as a result. However, we are working to improve and strengthen those community relations, building trust and becoming more responsive to the needs and listening to the host communities. As is the case in Madagascar, climatic extremes are likely to continue. And in South Africa, as a business, Richards Bay Minerals will continue to work with partners to explore ways to ensure the necessary disaster preparedness is there for our wider communities. In the days immediately following the recent floods, RBM set aside funds to support the provincial government of KZN and also third sector partners and disaster relief efforts, together assisting those affected by this tragic event. We know in such situations, basic necessities are often life-saving essentials. And in 2021, in partnership with local community stakeholders in Fort Dauphin, QMM developed a regional development program for our 3 host communities. This program aims to provide potable water to about 85% of the households in the area, which is up from 45% today. As a business in both South Africa and Madagascar, 2 countries that have felt the effects of climate change directly, through partnerships we continue to explore ways to increase the scale and impact of our contribution as we work to strengthen the resilience of our host communities. Of course, more can always be done, and we strive for continued improvements. It's also equally important to take stock of the positive milestones and recognise that hard work has been done on the way to achieving our ultimate goals. All these strides and others across the group are only possible because of our people, and particularly those at our mine sites. At Rio, we often say that people are our most important asset, and this is something that I truly believe. And from all my time in the business, I know that for people to feel valued, they must first feel safe. They must feel seen, and they must feel supported. These are absolutely fundamental. This brings me to an area that I think we need to do much more work on, which is workplace cultures. This is an area where all too often change has been too slow. And for many, too slow has meant they have felt unsafe at work. For far too long, that has meant that people have felt unseen and unsupported. In March last year, Rio Tinto commissioned an external review of its workplace culture. And the review took 8 months and saw almost a quarter of our employees globally share their experiences. It revealed some really disturbing findings of bullying, sexual harassment, racism, and other forms of discrimination within our business. It's clear from the report that sexism, bullying, and racism are systemic across our work sites. And it's common, particularly for people who work in a different country than the one they were born in, to experience racism at work. Almost a third of the women in our organization have experienced some form of sexual harassment, and many in minority communities have suffered various forms of abuse. These findings are deeply disturbing to me and to anyone who reads them. And it shouldn't need to be said that bullying and discrimination of any kind are unacceptable anywhere in a workplace, but sadly, we still need to say this. I want to use this opportunity to reiterate that in Rio Tinto, discrimination of any kind, be it race, gender, or sexual orientation, is not acceptable, and we continue to make strides to improve our organization. I'm sure many of you who saw the headlines wondered why we made such findings public. And as I mentioned earlier, we're determined to demonstrate our values in everything we do. In demonstrating care for our people, we leaned towards transparency and took the decision to publish the full report. I know some view this as an act of courage. I don't know if I agree. To me, courage was shown by the 10,000 people who actually shared their stories, some of them often quite painful. At a group level, we've committed to implementing all 26 recommendations to prevent unacceptable behaviours in our workplace. These recommendations fall broadly into 3 categories. The first is leadership and behaviour change. The second is facilities, safety and risk. And thirdly, a caring, people-centric response. And we're seeing all of these being rolled out at RBM. Our team there has established a leadership and culture steering committee which will drive positive change with a focus on ensuring that diversity in people and culture, as well as our values and behaviours, are embedded at all levels of the business. The steering committee will also undertake a full on-site facilities review to ensure that all of our people feel safe, appropriately accommodated, and that their personal integrity is prioritised while they're at work. We know that sadly the scourge of gender-based violence means that women in our industry are disproportionately victims of abuse. We also know that racism and racial discrimination are unfortunate, ever-present realities in many countries. And because of this, we're empowering our local teams to explore initiatives and approaches that respond specifically to them and provide the best context-appropriate safe spaces to confront these issues at each operation. There is no quick fix to any of this. And in Rio Tinto, I think it's taken each of us to take an honest, hard look at ourselves as individuals and also as leaders to move forward. In each of our locations, we have found that we are a microcosm of these societies, and therefore we have to play a part in eradicating these behaviours. I know that here in South Africa, work is being done by the Mineral Council to effect change across the industry, and more globally by the ICMM. They're leading on the same topic. And later this week, I'll join colleagues from the ICMM and the Minerals Council to discuss our respective initiatives on eradicating these harmful behaviours, and also how together we can be a catalyst for change. Just like with broader society and the climate change risks that we face, I hope at the very least that bringing to light these uncomfortable truths will offer us as an industry our own moral challenge. For us at Rio Tinto, I know the journey has only just begun, and the work does not stop at the mine gate. And for me, it's the type of work that I take home to my family, to my friends, and also to my community. And we need to continue to challenge ourselves and our biases and confront those. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with a quote from President Ramaphosa that speaks to where we as an industry find ourselves in our relationship with the planet and also with our people. He said that there are moments when old certainties are unsettled and new possibilities emerge. And in these moments, there is both the prospect of great progress and the risk of reversal. And today, I really believe that we are facing such a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has happened since I joined the mining industry quite a long time ago now. And many of those moments have gone. In one way or another, each moment has created its own need for change. Today, we're faced with an urgent challenge, and one that society demands a response to: our relationship with the world around us. I believe that while it remains fragile, we are seeing growing collective action towards decarbonising at scale, and I'm optimistic of the untapped opportunities that further collaboration can bring. I'm confident that together with our partners, we as a business and an industry can become leaders in transitioning to a cleaner future. There is a prospect of great progress. As we rally behind this, it's also important to admit where progress has been disappointing, where moments have come and gone, and yet progress has not matched the need for change in the past. The issue faced by our people, they're not new, but now I think is the time to fix things. I know that at Rio Tinto there is a growing awareness and collective action towards doing so. And just as society demands us to collaborate for our planet, we know that we also need to collaborate for our people. This is crucial too. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Sinead Kaufman, Chief Executive for Minerals for Rio Tinto. I'd now like you to please put your hands together for Sunil Dugal, CEO, and Priya Argavalhibal, Non-Executive Director of Vedanta Resources, as they make their way to stage.
Good afternoon, honorary leaders and distinguished leaders. Firstly, I'm so grateful to be speaking here and representing Vedanta on behalf of my family in front of such esteemed individuals such as yourselves. Of course, I'm learning from, the whole day today. I've had a great learning experience. And today, whatever I say, I would like to say straight from my heart. As I look around, I see a room filled with diversity, individuals of different nationality, cultures, educational backgrounds, gender, whatever it may be. All of us, however, share one common home, our Mother Earth. And we are united by a very important purpose: to leave Mother Earth, our home, the world we live in together, better than the way we found it. I stand here today representing a family legacy that has driven Vedanta for 3 decades. Vedanta is a vision of our chairman, my father, Mr. Anil Agarwal, a man who started his journey from very humble beginnings, from a time where he walked to school on barefoot each day, to working as a scrap metal trader, to finally setting up this globally diversified natural resources company as we see it today. Vedanta is rooted in deep harmony with nature and is striving to transform this world for good. Both India, where Vedanta was born, and South Africa, where we are meeting today, are so similar in so many ways. Africa and India have both had a powerful history. Both Indian and South African constitution evolved through a long struggle against colonialism and imperialism. Most importantly, both have been and continue to be apostles of truth, freedom, and nonviolence. Mr. Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhiji represented freedom like no other. However, unfortunately, Africa and India face many similar, painful challenges, such as hunger, poverty, and inequality. India and Africa, both together, make up a large part of the world's poorest. More than 50% of the world's poorest live between South Asia and Africa. This is where we can really collaborate, really help the world through the power of natural resources. Both Africa and India are gifted with rich natural reserves that, if together we unleash its potential, we could work towards eradicating these challenges for ourselves and for the world. Climate change is the other challenge for the world as we see it today. It presents a huge opportunity for collective and cooperative action. This is the larger responsibility for today's governments, for industry, and especially for all of us in the metals and mining space. Our work takes us to the heart of the earth, and we understand the delicate balance of our ecosystem. Our ecosystem, which is at a tipping point. We're at crossroads now, and how we capitalize our rich natural resources ecosystem while nudging the world towards a greener economy through commitments to net zero will play a critical role in achieving our purpose. I would like to introduce our CEO and Chief Safety Officer, Mr. Sinead Duggal, to take you further through this presentation.
Thank you, Priya. Honorary guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the entire world is talking about the responsibility of mineral sector, not only to decarbonize their own operations, but also to decarbonize this world. And if you look at what we have done and what we have been talking in the last few years, now of late, since COP26, we have realized that the world is a shared resource, and each one of us has the responsibility to deliver what we are supposed to do. But the increasing responsibility of the natural resource sector and Vedanta, we are seized of the responsibility we have on our shoulders. If we look at what we have done so far, the huge concentration and focus was there on renewable power. But the world has also realized that we also have to play a role in electrification of transport, electrification of heat, and the storage. So in the coming days, in the coming years, I think a greater focus is going to be there in these areas. And if we look at what we are supposed to do and which minerals are required, I'm very happy to share with you that out of the 19 minerals which are required to meet the demand, which is multiple of the normal demand which this world has to meet, 9 minerals Vedanta produces. So we are seized of our responsibility of what we are supposed to do in future. So if we go to the next slide, we see that we are predominantly present in India. We are one of the most natural diversified resource in the world, next to maybe BHP Billiton. But we have presence in 4 continents. If we look at what the aspiration of India is and what India needs to do in the next 8 to 10 years, we want to become 5 trillion economy. India also has the ambition not only to produce and meet the aspiration of our own people, we also have the responsibility towards the world to produce for the world. So looking at that, we are taking great strides, not only in India, in Africa, in other parts of the world, where we are raising our operations. Go to the next. So the next slide, I just want to take you through that what we are. As I rightly said, we are one of the most diversified portfolio in the world. We make not only metals and minerals and the critical metals, we also make 25% of India's oil and gas production. We are one of the largest aluminum producers in the world. We are making our operations integrated. We are working on the complete value chain of our operations. We are the 6th largest silver producer in the world. One of our mine, Rampura Gucha mine, is the largest underground zinc mine in the world. We have one of the richest silver mine in the world under the banner of Hindustan Zinc. As I said, we produce 25% of the India's hydrocarbon, and we are also one of the key exporters of iron ore. Now, if I look at what are our ambitions and what we want to do in the next 8 to 10 years going forward, we want to invest around $30 billion in the current decade. Hindustan Zinc, which currently produces around 1 million ton, we want to take the capacity to 1.5 million ton. Zinc International, the ore body of Hamsburg, which traditionally had the thought that we cannot produce the quality concentrate and the quality metal out of that. We have broken that myth, and now as we stand, we have mastered the art of producing a clean zinc out of that. So I also want to let you know that this is one of the largest R&R at our Hamsburg. So at this location, we have the ambition to take this to one of the largest integrated operation in the world. Oil and gas, in India, we are working on unconventional hydrocarbon shale oil, like what we have learned from US. We are doing some pilots there. We are taking some action on the exploration and improving the enhanced recovery, and we want to take this production to 500K barrel per day. Aluminium, we are working on the complete value chain along with producing the value-added product, but we are also taking the capacity up to 3 million tons. So this will take us to 3 largest aluminium producers in the world. In steel, we have a meager presence, but we don't want to be a meager player. We want to take this capacity to 10 million ton in the next 5 to 7 years. As Priya said, we have a lot of commonality between the two continents, Africa and India. And if we go back, we share old ties of mutual respect and ethos. Two of our icons, Nelson Mandela and Karamchand Gandhi, they are the icons of the world. The Indian community is also deeply entrenched for the last more than 2 years in Africa. Now, if we look at what India and Africa has done and compared to the world, we have hardly been responsible for creating an environment concerns for the world. We have the least carbon footprint, but we are seized of the responsibility. If the world has to survive and the world has not to become extinct, I think the responsibility of the mineral sector is such that they can supply to the whole world. They can help this world to decarbonize. And India and Africa is seized of the responsibility of this. If I come back again to our Hamsburg complex, this is located in Northern Cape. So this is one of the largest investment in Northern Cape. But now, after having mastered the art of floating this ore and producing the clean concentrate, we have realized that we have the opportunity to convert this location as one of the biggest smelting complex in the world. So, Priya, would you like to sum up?
Sure. As this aspiration resonates with our legacy at Vedanta, putting purpose before profit and the commitment to transforming for good and transforming for the world is what we live by and breathe by. Firstly, I'd like to just talk about our 3 ESG pillars that we currently go by. Firstly, we are focused on transforming lives and transforming communities. Till today, we have positively touched the lives of 46 million plus people, and going forward, we have set some goals to ensure we really do transform even more for good. We're an employer of over 100,000 people, and we understand the importance of going beyond and doing good for a wider community, beyond the boundaries of our organization. My father has pledged 75% of his wealth to philanthropy. We aim to impact the lives of over 100 million women and children through education, skilling, nutrition, and healthcare. As mentioned earlier, by strategically using the natural resources potential of India and Africa, we can work towards eradicating malnourishment in a big way. No one deserves to go hungry, is something our chairman, my father, always says. Further, we also closely focus on animal welfare. We would like to go beyond just ourselves and look at the care for animals, which is something we could really learn from Africa to better protect our wildlife and improve human-animal coexistence. Transforming the planet is our second pillar, sorry. We're pursuing a net zero aspiration by 2050 and growing our renewable energy consumption. We already told you about Restora, which is just one example of our efforts to innovate for greener products and business models. Finally, transforming the workplace, creating a workplace which is safe, diverse, supportive, and world-class. People are our biggest assets, and we are committed to their well-being and safety. We have a very young workforce, and we want to bring in that energy, dynamism that the next generation stands for. This is our story, this is our quest. We're transforming for good, for ourselves, our communities, our planets, and for future generations. We hope we will walk with many of you as we continue on this journey. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Sunil Dugal, CEO, and Priya Argaval Hibal, Non-Executive Director of Vedanta Resources. Now, I'd like to welcome His Excellency Bandar bin Ibrahim Al Kuarev, Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Please put your hands together to welcome him to stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, dear distinguished guests, it is an honor to be here with you this afternoon. As most of you may know, that the mining sector in Saudi Arabia is relatively young. This is certainly true when compared to many of the countries that are represented here today, but also is true in comparison to other sectors in the Saudi economy. Some of you may also know that Saudi Arabia has just launched its new mining strategy, as we have recently done this as part of our Vision 2030. In our strategy, we have tried to learn from experiences from other countries, also tried to learn from our own experience in other industries such as oil and gas, petrochemicals, and the industrial sector. We learned from the successes and the challenges. And today, I would like to share with you some of the most important learnings from this process. As I believe we have a great opportunity ahead of us in mining together, as the mining industry is at an inflection point, as key trends in innovation, manufacturing, the net zero transition are driving demand for more critical minerals. As governments, we have a role to play in meeting this demand by promoting investment and de-risking risk of investments. If we can work together to achieve this, we will all become stronger. and allow me to talk further about this later. So, back to our learnings in Saudi Arabia. I've tried to limit this into 8 different learning points. The first is policy and regulation, as it is so fundamental to the success of mining strategy. Mining is a long-term play. It requires huge amounts of investments and capital. And therefore, regulation needs to be stable. They need to be predictable, transparent, and fair. Secondly, the importance of geological survey. The more countries invest in their geology, the more data they will be able to produce, and therefore, the more ability to de-risk for investors. And third, the quality of infrastructure to support mining is a tremendous importance to the success of different investments and different projects in mining. Governments need to pay attention to this often overlooked area. Our fourth learning is linking mining to industry. We need to incentivize investors to go downstream, and we need the industries that create domestic demand for the mining output and strengthen supply chain. Fifth, we learned that we also need to incentivize investors in investing in automation, in new technologies that are required for smart mining. And sixth, we learned that we also need to incentivize investors to develop human capital, as human capital drives mining success and vice versa. 7, we have learned that ESG or sustainability is a must, but as we all know, it's easier said than done. But I'm absolutely convinced that the future of mining can only be sustainable. Last but not least, in fact, is probably the most important learning from this process. We realized that mining is unique. Unlike other sectors, mining is almost impossible to copy. It's impossible to copy other experiences, but rather needs to be designed to fit certain countries and societies. So, how do we put these learnings into action? As I have said earlier, mining is at an inflection point. We have a tremendous opportunity ahead of us. If we look at Africa, together with the region that stretches through the Middle East and into Central Asia, this region holds This region holds some of the largest reserves of key commodities on Earth. Our shared geological endowments includes many of the minerals and metals that world needs to help, that will help the world meet its targets for net zero transition. A successful transition will require at least 4-fold increase in production. In Saudi Arabia, for example, the Arabian Shield lies beneath nearly 1/3 of the country, holding more than $1.3 trillion worth of minerals, such as gold, copper, zinc, nickel, and rare earth, and many other minerals. Also in Africa, the Nubian Shield, and in Asia, the Tathian Belt, both hold similar potential. So the global demand of critical minerals is rising. We all know this. And we all know it will continue to rise. Our responsibility is creating social and environmentally sustainable mining ecosystem while maintaining this growth in demand. For me, this means that the learnings comes with responsibility. As governments, we are uniquely qualified to bring all mining stakeholders together: investors, financial institutions, service providers, solution providers, logistics operators, government and non-government organization, academia, and any other group that have a stake in the future of minerals. We as governments have a great opportunity and also a responsibility to design the right framework of mining, a framework that maximizes the impact of mining for our economy and society. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, as a representative of the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I see a responsibility to create a mining ecosystem that establishes a competitive and forward-looking legal and regulatory framework, a framework that assures sustainability, transparency, ease of doing business, an ecosystem that provides detailed geological and geochemical data to de-risk investments and offer excellent infrastructure and world-class talent. Why? Because if doing it right, mining has the potential to develop nations and touch societies much more deeper than any other sector. Mining and the industries linked to mining can be a major development driver for our regions. If done right, mining can transform an economy. It can transform a society. It can bring economic and social development. It can definitely bring investment opportunity, employment opportunity, develop talent and human talent. Mining can drive innovation. It can drive R&D. It can drive the future. In conclusion, the most important indicator for a successful mining strategy is improving the people's quality of life. And that, to us, is a must. So we need to continue learning, work together with you in the region to unlock our country's and more broadly our region's potential. If we meet our responsibilities as government, I'm certain that the future of mining will be brighter than it has ever been before. For this reason, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have done its strategy, taking this learning into account. We have recently rewrote our mining investment law. It now ensures care for workers, great commitment for the environment and for the social activities and communities. It has great transparency, and it is designed to incentivize innovation and downstream investments. In addition, we have launched our geological survey program, which covers 600,000 square kilometers of Saudi Arabia, which is about the third size of the country. We also launched our national geological database to allow investors access to information. As a result, we have seen great interest from investors, foreign and local. And this was proven as a result of our success in our recent first auction license last month. But we definitely have an enormous opportunity in our entire region. To seize it, we need to increase exploration, develop future-proof infrastructure and supply chain, retain and attract talent, and care for the communities where we work. Together, we can develop mineral frameworks, industrial clusters, and entire value chains that are resilient and responsible and that can benefit our society and the people living in our nations. In this spirit, Saudi Arabia is supporting mining Indaba as part of its effort to expand sustainable mining around the world in a way that benefits everyone. In conclusion, allow me to thank the organizers for this prestigious event, for welcoming me and my team to be part of this year's conference. It is an honor for me to be here in Cape Town representing my country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. At this time of major transformation of the global mining industry and also Saudi Arabia. I also would like to take this opportunity to recognize the hard work that the incredible, diverse countries here in Africa have done and are doing to achieve the economic and social potential of this dynamic continent. We are here to listen. We are here to learn, and we are here to cooperate. Finally, I take also this opportunity to welcome you and invite you all to Saudi Arabia, where we are picking up the discussion we are having here at our future mineral forum in Riyadh in January. Let's continue learning from each other and seize the opportunities ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. Honourable guests, I hope you've had the opportunity to download the Mining Indaba app on your mobile phones. It's a great way to navigate the conference with an interactive floor plan of our exhibitors, see a list of the companies attending, the delegates that are attending. You can browse the various event programs right on your mobile phone. You can also set up face-to-face meetings. There's question and answer sections. You can discover all our sponsors and exhibitors that are all here that make this event possible. And there's so much more. Super easy to download, super easy. It will take 5 minutes just to register your details and be able to log in. And it is an absolute easy way to network as well. So perhaps there's someone you'd like to set a meeting up with, perhaps there's someone you'd like to network with, or perhaps you'd just like to meet any of our panelists or our speakers, or perhaps you have any questions for our sponsors or any of our delegates. It's the perfect way to do that as well. We're also on social media, and the hashtag is MI2022. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your photos from today. So please feel free to continue to upload it with the hashtag MI2022, as well as Mining Indaba. That hashtag again, hashtag MI2022, as well as hashtag mining Indaba, just to make it a little bit easier. This afternoon, we've also got a variety of panelists that will be joining us on stage, so please do stick around for that. We'll also be able to answer any of your questions. You can also post that through the app as well. And you are welcome at any time to connect with any of our speakers using that app. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest on our stage is the CEO of the Barrick Corporation. Please put your hands together for Mark Bristow.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a great pleasure to be